The Inchworm Roaster. One day, upon a summer beach, a crowd of young men and women were playing volleyball in bathing suits. Some of them had been in the water, and some were wet and sandy from building sandcastles. They all played tricks on each other, made fools of themselves, and they went through their late morning without caring what other people did. A big guy with a beard smacked the volleyball into the head of an opponent. "Oh, I'm sorry. You all right, man?" The other held his hands on his forehead and blinked his eyes rapidly. He let out a whoop and threw the volleyball into the big guy's stomach. The big guy charged into the net, and the setup fell down. Only these two and one girl were at the net now, as most of the others had gone into the water. They heard a clink, and a beam of bright light jumped around them. The big guy turned his head and saw, by a sand dune, a man about 10 years older than he, with a wispy beard and one pointy ear, bending over a jar, holding a magnifying glass. A toolbox and a cigar box lay near him. The three stood watching this man. "What is he doing?" said the girl. "What is he, melting grains of sand, or?" said the skinny youth. The man with the pointy ear was sifting sand through his fingers, holding the magnifying glass with his other hand. "Hey, come here," called the big guy to the water. "Roger, come here." A tall and also big guy came up, followed by a wet girl. "Yeah, Dean?" The girl who had been playing volleyball said. "There's this weird guy over there. There, he's wearing baggy shorts." "He's trying to make glass or something," said Dean. "Hey, he looks sort of like that guy outside Lindy's," said Roger. Dean opened his mouth as he stared. "You think so?" "Let's go over there," said the skinny guy. And starting out laughing, they walked over to the man. They stood by him quietly for about a half-minute until the man looked up at them. "Just looking," said the skinny guy. "Sure, go ahead." "What are you doing?" said the volleyball-playing girl. The man stopped sifting the sand for a second and said, "If you see an inchworm in the sand, could you pick it up and give it to me? I'm roasting inchworms." Dean looked at Roger, who looked at the skinny guy, and the skinny guy looked at everyone. The wet girl looked at the inchworm roaster, and the dry girl looked at Roger. "Oh, here he is." The man got something green out of the sand. He held it up. "No, this comes from Cracker Jacks." He threw it over into the sand dunes. "Are you kidding?" said the dry girl. "No, really, it's fun." He slipped his hand into the cigar box and took out a maple leaf. He opened up the plastic jar and stuck the leaf in. "How long have you been doing this?" said the dry girl. "Oh, since May. I collect them up at Janie's Park. Use up a lot of suntan lotion, though." He was shaking his hand in the jar a bit. "But inchworms are nice insects," said the wet girl. "Oh, they're not insects. I think they're..." And as he talked, Roger and Dean were a few feet away, with the skinny guy just able to hear. "Janie's Park, Roger." The man pulled the leaf out of the jar, and an inchworm on the stem bent itself and stood up. "Now, I hold the leaf and place the worm on wax paper." He grinned and took some wax paper out of his toolbox. "Now, girls, I hold the leaf above. Blow," and here he blew at the stem, "and this little creature plops onto the sheet." The inchworm almost rolled off the paper into the sand. The group watched and listened. "Now, enough of this little English magnifying glass. Time for the one from the People's Republic of China. First, though, I fold up the edges of the paper. Maybe a bit late, but we don't want him to be buried alive." He folded all the sides up. Dean folded his arms and kept staring. The man opened the toolbox, slid a door in the top with a clang, and pulled out a rectangular magnifying glass about 6 inches wide and a foot long. He shut the box and held the glass over the paper. "That's awful big," said the wet girl, dripping on the cigar box a bit. "Well, you'll see why." He started tilting the magnifying glass. "Excuse me, Sue, could you move a bit that way? Is that your name? You look Sue-ish." "How did you know that?" said the wet girl, and she moved to her right and shook her hair back. "Well, to tell the truth, I see the Sue writing on your bathing suit." "Sue? On my bathing suit?" She looked down. "That's the name of the company," said the dry girl. He took the plastic jar, got the lid off, and putting a leaf at the opening, dumped the rest of the inchworms onto the paper. The new people started asking Dean and the skinny guy what he was doing. "He's doing strange things to inchworms. They love the leaf. They fall on the paper proudly. I now roast them all on their dead friend in the hot wax." He held the magnifying glass closer than he did before, and some inchworms welded together. A sound like spit being sloshed through teeth came from this pile as the inchworms squirmed in the heap. Roger had gotten behind Denny Tufts. He grabbed his hair and pulled it all back straight. Dean shouted, "You guys, isn't that Dan O'Toots?" Denny Tufts was shouting. "He's the Gani Soon guy from Lindy's." A few people in the crowd said they remembered him. Roger pulled his hair tighter. "You tried to sell us the Gani Soon spirit book, you and your fellow freaks." Dean shouted, "You pony-tailed god freaks." Denny Tufts slipped his hand under the wax paper and shoved the pile of hot inchworms behind him into Roger's face. Roger let go and ran into the water. Denny Tufts tried to run into the sand dunes. He shouted, "The ozone layer will split and Gani Soon messenger rays will twist you." Everyone was running after him, and they surrounded him. Dean walked closer to where Denny Tufts was standing, and the others began to kick a little sand, and then they got closer. Denny Tufts jumped up and stretched out a leg, hitting Dean in the face. Dean fell down, and Denny Tufts ran out through the empty space and leapt onto a small sand dune and disappeared. The skinny guy and a few others started running after him, but they had to climb a sand dune fence, and all they saw when they reached the top of the dune was Denny Tufts pulling out of the parking lot on a green motorcycle. He stopped for a second, seemed to smile, and gave the toll booth lady the beach money. The skinny guy and the others ran back to the crowd. A girl was kissing Dean's cheek, and Roger was wiping his face with a towel. Sue leaned on his shoulder. Lucinda said, "That guy was sick." Roger threw up.